Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. And I should recommend you do it because we're going to be looking at OMAC 3 and 4. And this is part of Inktober, where I'm covering black and whites, and I love John Byrne. And John Byrne is using dual shade and dual tones for these. We're not concentrating on the story. We are simply looking at John Byrne's beautiful art. OMAC, of course, is a character created by Jack Kirby during the 70s, and you can see the dual shade being applied here in places here. This type of dual, as I mentioned before, it is not very archival, so a lot of these things turn yellow and brown. So one of the things that is, and we're as we look at this panel here, one of the things about dual shade is how when um when you ink plus it's just too much black. And I don't know, sometimes I'm like, geez Louise, you guys just put it everywhere. So then when it just gets too overcrowded, particularly with ink slingers like John Byrne, which he loves to uh spot the blacks, and it just becomes so much of it. See, like here it's okay, but then when you see here and here, it becomes a little too much. So, cartoonist Kayfabe has a couple videos on how dual shade and dual tone work. Feel free to check those out if you're curious. But I always explain to people that it was a special paper, and when you use these chemicals, one chemical would bring in a lighter line, but then another chemical would bring in a darker line. Basically, it would crosshatch, and so um, it can get a little overwhelming. So, and I have covered Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 17, and we got to see how that was applied very beautifully as well. And we're gonna be going back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, this is all being done in the dual shade. So again, the dark part right here. So he's using the two things here, and then the light part then just here. So um it's essentially like doing oh my goodness gracious, screen tones, only it's a chemical. Instead of having to cut through that, you just use that chemical. So Ed Piskor actually used the paper, but he would then put it in through, instead of using he would then use Photoshop. So instead of using a digital, adding it on digitally, he would superimpose the dual shade on top of his art, and then he would erase, so that it kept that traditional um, style that he so loved and always was trying to go for. So this is from the early 90s. So it's I think his third. I think every 10 years or so, John Byrne goes through another different art phase, and this is his 90s phase. He was doing Namor also during this time. And he was employing this on Namor, only Namor, of course, was in color. So, but our wonderful John Byrne here, man, look at this. That is so cool. Another thing John Byrne does is he on started doing where he's not spotting any whites, and the blacks are just exactly that. And then he's got a fetish with these pants. I forgot what they're called, but if you look at his Wonder Woman run, he he has Hercules wearing them. So again, so much screen tone, and I don't know if this is Hitler or somebody else dressed like Hitler because I haven't read this in forever. But I guess based on these soldiers, that is supposed to be Hitler. So I love John Byrne. John Byrne is one of my favorites. I am covering his West Coast Avengers run, um, his Wonder Woman run. I have his. I've already covered his Uncanny X-Men run, and then what else? His Marvel Team Up run, except for like the last two issues. I don't know, for some reason I stopped, and it's kind of funny that he did that with Chris Claremont. So this ends the issue, and so now we go to the fourth and final issue here. The One Man Army Corp. That's what OMAC stands for. So, like I said, as I've also did Barry Windsor Smith's Monster, which was absolutely beautiful, and that was nice to do. And I did that sort of like this, where I'm just showing you the art, and I'm not really going through explaining what the story is. Feel free to pick these up because John Byrne um, is just wonderful to his art is wonderful to look at, and I have these issues. Um, but I got them simply because I wanted the art. The story itself is secondary. I wish Marvel would release a black and white of the Namor run that he was doing throughout this time, because that would have definitely there was a lot of this going on through the Namor run. Man, John Byrne is so good. Um, my favorite penciler, and I think the greatest penciler of all time, is Jim Lee. I know some people are all like it'll be Byrne or it'll be Neil Adams or Jack Kirby even, but um, I think John Byrne is the inspiration for Jim Lee. So John Byrne is just a masterful. And it's funny that it wasn't until the 90s that he started experimenting with the dual shade and the dual tone. Just, it just could become so overwhelming. Here you can see he had to use white media to try and cut the for the hair, because it all kind of went through in there. A lot of words. John Byrne is a wordy writer, but as I mentioned, since you have noticed, we're not really covering the story, so he can write as many words as he wants. The art was beautiful here and definitely worth checking out. So, I think I have covered the first two issues of the OMAC series by Jack Kirby, but I'm not really a Kirby guy. So, I don't know. This is from the original. This was part of the Jack Kirby. They kind of came in boxes and you assembled them. I'm not too familiar with the OMAC, and I haven't read these in forever. It really has been forever. So, um, yeah, I haven't read the Namors forever. That's something that I'm anxious to get through once I'm done with some of the other John Burns. So it looks like that is it. So he was basically why he wanted to do the OMAC. So there we go. So OMAC 3 and 4 by John Byrne, part of Inktober that I'm doing. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.